Go.
You've never felt like you could be yourself around me? She said with a confused and mildly frustrated tone. Her face was both clenched with irritation and drooping with sorrow. Her brow pulled in while her mouth and cheeks fell out and down as she looked over at me lying stiffly in the hospice bed. She looked like she was about to cry, but she hadn't given in yet. I felt like a version, I answered. What does that mean? A version? Her tone was even tenser now. Just not my whole self, I guess. Not who I really am. Whatever that means at this point. Then why the hell did you marry me? She said.
Great question.
Between the stir craziness of the last nearly 2 years, the medications, having been in the hospice center for the last 3 weeks, and of course, the looming finality of everything, I had, for the first time in as long as I could remember, perhaps in my entire life, suddenly felt the walls come down. I couldn't hold them anymore. More so, I just didn't care to. It's not that I lost care altogether. I still cared a lot. It's just that I stopped caring about the things that didn't matter, at least not to me. Not anymore. I didn't care about being perceived in a certain way. I didn't care about being consistent. I didn't care about how well I played along, what other people expected and wanted of me. My doctor had said that my chances of making it past 1 year after my diagnosis were very low, given the state of my condition. Now, over a year and a half later, I felt like I was basically living 3 extra days. In a way, my life felt like it had ended on that 1 year mark.
Aren't we all?
I felt like I was a ghost who only haunted himself. I saw myself almost as a carcass of life, of regrets, yet still filled with the spirit of who I really was, who I had always wanted to be. I felt separate from everything, yet still present. It was one of those strange states that's impossible to translate to anyone who's never been in it, never outlived their own death. I looked at Kate. I've never felt like myself with anyone. I told her. I didn't mean you specifically. You didn't do anything. No one did. It was my fault.
It was my fault.
What do you mean, John? She said, her tone loosening and opening up a bit. I blew it. I did so much wrong. Kate.
I understand what he's going through, bro. I've been there before.
Kate leaned in closer toward me, shifting her hand a bit inside mine. I looked up at the ceiling. What are you talking about? Everyone loves you, John. Everyone I've ever known that knows you, that spent time with you, loved you, loves you. I looked back over at her. Her face was softer now, stretching vertically rather than scrunching horizontally. She realized this wasn't about her, or us. My whole life, I was so worried about whether or not people liked me, loved me. I did everything I could to ensure that everyone did, that everyone thought I was the greatest. Oh, John is so great. He's this and he's that. I changed so much about myself to make sure that happened. In moments, in phases, in years. I always went this way instead of that way to ensure that I did what people wanted, that people approved of and liked me. I cared so much about how I was experienced in the minds of everyone else that I never even really experienced me in my own. There was a long pause. John, that just makes you a good person. You put others first.
What? Did she fucking hear what you just said? And she said that makes you a good fucking person? Wow, man, that's fucked. Cause it really doesn't, bruh. And it's so sad. That's actually really sad that she does not even understand. Because she's probably doing the same thing. In my personal opinion. Personally, as I got to know God a lot more over this last year, reading his word, praying, and actively putting time aside for God. You know, when I put aside time for God, I have a different level of experience. I'm able to do more. My discipline is able to go to lengths that I can't display the level of discipline on my own that I can when I'm connected with God constantly throughout the day, multiple times a day, getting deep in my word. But besides the point, I feel like people who do this, which is most people, aren't really connected to God. And the only reason I say that is because when you make love, when you make the foundation of the love that you need come from other people, you are a slave to them. You have no choice but to give in to what you think they want, because you can't afford to take that risk and say, oh, well, if they don't fuck with me, it's okay, because wooty woo. No, you need that. That is the foundation. I'm not saying you don't need people. I'm not saying you don't need love. You need people. You need love. But what I'm saying is, if you make the love that other people give you your foundation and not the love of God, one, the bare bones, the root, the literal roots, and then the love for yourself over that, and then the love of people, you will never experience the freedom that comes with just being your authentic self. Because there's going to be times where, when you're being your authentic self and things don't go the way you want it. But if you don't have no foundation, you're cooked. There's nothing to build off of.
It's in your nature. It's a good thing. Her voice was shaky. Is it? Did
No.
I? There was another pause. My head was hurting. I felt weak and tired and slightly numb. I felt a strange lucidity amidst the disorientation, though. Kate just sat there waiting. I cared about how people saw me, I continued. I cared about how they experienced me. It was all always about me, not anybody else. Well, who the hell else is it going to be about? Kate interrupted. Of course, everything you do from your perspective is going to involve you. No, I didn't even really care about me either. That's the worst part. It was like a strange paradox of narcissism and self-abandonment. I was so desperate, so misguided, so self-focused on being liked and seen a certain way. I changed and reduced who I was at every turn. To appease my father, mother, friends, teachers, girlfriends, bosses, strangers, my wife. That's not a good person. It's not a bad person. It's just not much of a person at all.
Oh, wow. Do you feel like that's fair? Because that's definitely not a good person. I feel like I'll say that with confidence. But would I say that's, I'd argue is that a bad person? I guess he's right. That's not really yeah, he's right. It's not really a person.
Kate's eyes began to water. Then
Facts.
so did mine. Honey, she said to me, you did what you could. You did what you knew how. That's all anyone can do. I paused for another moment. I looked out the room's window at the cars and people rushing by on the streets below. A city of people frantically completing to-do lists that weren't their own. I was so worried about being seen as a perfect person, someone who was successful, who was happy, who was always fun to be around, who was smart and competent, who did the right things in the right way. And now, I'm going to die without having really been seen by anyone at all.
Ooh, that's deep.
I could hear Kate sniffing.
That's
I looked
deep.
back over at her. She was pulling tears back in.
That's
They
deep.
looked heavy. Okay, she said defiantly while rubbing her face. Then talk to me now, she continued.
Wow.
Let me see you.
Let me see you.
Be who you really are. There's still...
Let me see. At that point, right? Because I'm thinking like, okay, I want to put myself in this situation. How would I feel, right? Like, it wasn't too long ago that I guess I was doing that. And I would get out of it and then something would pull me back. I would get out of it and something would pull me back. And, I had an interaction today that was so real. Like, I was so proud of myself. I was so proud of myself for being a real ass nigga, bro. Because I was supposed to get my hair braided a couple days. I was supposed to get my hair braided on my birthday. Shit fell through. I was supposed to get it braided earlier today. Shit fell through. She kept canceling and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm texting her like, yo, like, I need shit to be on time with the whoop. She like, I'm gonna send you bread back, whatever. So I felt this animosity. And this is not a Randeezy. This is my, like, damn, like, all right, whatever, fuck it. Like, in my head, I got in my car and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just try to find somebody else that could do it. See if somebody knows somebody that could wooty whoop. And I was like, you know what? Let me just pull up to the shop just to see if she's there so we could talk. All right, and I get to the shop. I look. I don't, like, as I'm driving, I look through the back. I don't really see her. I see there might be somebody. Then I park and I sit there and I say, wow, like, I have a kind of a line in the sand moment. And I ask myself, is this really what you want to do? Like, you don't really have, like, what if, and I start asking myself these defining questions, like, well, what if this? And, like, what if she feels uncomfortable, or what if you embarrass yourself, or what if this happens? And the underlining thing, the thought in my head that was most loud, that was most important, that moved me the most was, you got to move on principle. You got to be who you are. Like, like, you just got to be a real nigga. Like, win, lose, or draw, you got to be who you are. You got to be a real nigga. Like when they tell the story about you, like when you and God watching a replay of your life, did you move off principle or did you move off fear? Did you move off of what if this or what if that, or was you scared? So I went in there and we had a conversation, and it was so like there's a shop and then there's a back shop. Like there's a back to where she do hair and shit like that. So when I got in the barbershop part, she was talking to somebody. She was in it. I don't know what she was talking about. She could have been talking about me. She could have been talking about something completely different. I don't know. I didn't really care. I walked in. She was looking this way, and then she turned and she said, she kind of froze, and I just waved, and I knocked on the door, and she come in. So I opened the door. Whoever she was talking to, I was like, hey, can we just talk? And then I said, yo, like, how you doing? What's going on? He was like it felt so raw, because like it just felt so crazy, because I never really been in a position like that before. Like I've never been in a mental or emotional state like that before, of just being a real nigga, not being a nigga that was scared. Cause like I feel like I've taken actions like that before, but it's in the spirit like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna just do it. You know what I'm saying? And you're not moving in the right spirit when you like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna just do it. Like if you scared to talk to a girl and you're like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna just do it. You're not doing it right. When people can feel fear, people can feel anxiety, people can feel that. But when you come in on some real love shit, on some just real, like, I'm just here, like, yo, like, what's up? And I was just like, hey, I'm here to talk. And I was like, before I say anything, you want to say anything? She told me like, all right, so boom, this, and happening, and she going off, and I'm sitting there just listening, like, I don't feel any anxiety. I felt as free as I ever felt, just sitting there in what people would deem conflict. Like, oh, and a lot of people are scared of conflict. I don't even think a lot of people are scared to get punched in the face necessarily. I think people are scared of conflict. And we're talking, and I said, first of all, if I made you feel any way, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, woody woo. And we just had a conversation, and woody woo, I left. I honestly don't really know how we're gonna move forward, but I know if that situation ever gets addressed, I just know that I moved like a real nigga. I just moved like a real nigga. Like I moved like who I am in my heart. I didn't move out of fear. I didn't move out of like, I really could have just dead it. Like I'm never talking again, blocking her. I'm going to bad mouth her. Like, no, like, we both played a role in that. Obviously from my perspective, I don't really feel like whatever. From her perspective, whatever. Like, and she had I understood exactly where she came from. And so in that moment, I got to see me. And so when you're building your confidence of you, moments like that, it's like I will never go below that point of confidence in myself ever again. Knowing who I am and knowing that moment that happened that usually would make me uncomfortable, or even if I would have taken the right actions, if you do the right actions in the wrong spirit, it's not going to get you the right results. And so doing the right thing in the right spirit with the right headspace, just like a real nigga, like the confidence that you get in yourself when you move like that is priceless when you move on principle.
Time. Use it. Thank you so much for watching. One of the most important things we can do in life is try to understand ourselves. This, of course, can be extremely difficult and convoluted, oftentimes without any clear answers at all. But with the right tools, time, and effort, we can get a bit closer to some semblance of answers. I created a guided journal designed to help with this process called All the Ways Things Could Go. It uses creative writing and drawing prompts that help you explore your subconscious mind and arrive at clearer self-understanding. Rather than starting with a blank page, with this guided journal, you're given thought-provoking prompts designed to stir your creativity and coax out inner thoughts and feelings that might otherwise be hard to access. For example, on page 50, you're given the prompt, write your obituary. This is intended to challenge you to consider yourself from a different vantage point. In this case, after you're gone, almost tricking yourself into writing a guide for the type of person you want to be when all is said and done. It gets you out of the way so you can better see who you are. If you're interested, the link is in the description below. And of course,
The last thought you'll ever have. This is pretty this is, I don't even want to talk. Let's just experience this video.
on June 3rd, 1982, at 2:05 p.m., a girl named Nia was thought of for the very first time. She had no body, no brain, and no name. She was nothing more than a faint red line on a pregnancy test, a symbol of a potential person. On January 22nd, 1983, after it was determined that she was a girl, her parents decided what to name her, and Nia was officially thought of for the first time with the name Nia. About 3 months later, Nia was seen for the very first time without a screen. Awoken to the stark light of the hospital delivery room, Nia had no idea where she was or who she was. She was, for this one brief, fleeting moment, a completely blank slate, nobody and somebody at the same time, free to be whoever she could. On June 1st, 1988, Nia was thought of as a friend for the first time, after her mother's friend's daughter, Sarah, asked Nia if she liked the TV show Danger Mouse. Nia said yes, even though she didn't know what Sarah was talking about. Being 5 years old, Nia thought it was better to say yes and not seem different. Sarah liked Nia because of this, and they hung out every week and watched the show together. Nia didn't really like the show. She liked that Sarah liked her though, so she never said anything. On March 9th, 1991, Nia was thought of as annoying and weird for the first time. After dancing by herself during second grade recess, a group of her classmates mocked her, and one girl told her that she was weird. Nia didn't dance again for several years. On October 14th, 1994, Nia was thought of as attractive for the first time, after a boy named Sam met her at school and liked the way her hair looked on one of the rare days that Nia wore it down. He told Nia that he liked her and thought her hair was pretty. Nia wore her hair down almost every day after, even though she kind of liked it more in a ponytail. On August 16th, 1997, Nia was hated for the first time after breaking up with her first real boyfriend, Tim. Tim told Nia she was a horrible, inconsiderate person who only cared about herself. Nia worried that maybe he was right and got back together with him to prove that he wasn't. Not long after getting back together, Tim broke up with Nia. On June 29th, 2005, Nia was thought of as a full-time employee.
Wait, this is, how old is she now? She's 22 because she was born in 83. I just want to keep track of how old she is.
For the first time, after being hired as a financial analyst at a large media company. It seemed to make her dad really happy when she first considered business and finance as a major in college, so she stuck with it, hoping it would continue to impress him and other people she knew and might know in the future. She never really came around to liking it herself. On April 10th, 2012, Nia was thought of for the first time.
That's 29, I believe. I think so. She was born in 83. So 17 plus 12 is 29. Okay.
As a wife, after marrying her 7th boyfriend, James. She wasn't sure if she was ready when James proposed, but didn't want to hurt him and deeply feared the possibility of being thought of as old and alone, especially.
That's so tough, bro. Imagine marrying someone because you don't want to. I mean, I don't know, bro. That's how they, I guess maybe that's how they did it back in the day, and I guess it worked. I guess what is working? Was it blissful? Or did niggas not really care about blissful? Blissful wasn't really the thought. The thought was, can we survive? You go to work, I take care of the kids. You know, you're a companion, I guess. We live in the same house. We are we go together. We function together. We're what's the word I'm looking for? Cordial. I guess nobody really cared about bliss. You know, especially when back in the day when a woman needed a man. You know, a woman doesn't need a man as much as she did back then. So I guess nobody really cared. Oh, you know, is it blissful? Do I love him? Does he give me the ick? You know, is he handsome? Is he cute? I guess nobody really cared about that. And on top of that, niggas ain't really see as many, you know, niggas ain't really have access to the options.
After her mother repeatedly hinted at the idea. On October 22nd, 2016.
Okay, now she's 33. Yes.
Nia was thought of as a mother for the first time as her firstborn child, Katie, uttered the word "Mom" as she looked up at Nia. Katie knew nothing about Nia yet, but saw the source of all comfort and safety and love in Nia's eyes. On December 8th, 2019,
36.
Nia was thought of as a boss for the first time after being promoted to corporate financial manager at a major multinational clothing corporation. Nia wasn't sure if she wanted the position and hated the idea of bossing people around, but she wanted her parents and friends and strangers she might talk with to think of her as a success. Moreover, she wanted her legacy to have some significance, for her children and her children's children to look back at her and think of her as someone who was someone who was important. She took the job and stayed in it for the rest of her career. During her time, she helped make some of the largest acquisitions and mergers in the company's history, helping it reach a new height in the industry and popular culture. This made Nia quite wealthy and sought after. She hated what the expectations made her become, though. She became somewhat cold and forceful to her employees and hyper-focused on money and work, giving up almost all of her free time and things for herself outside of work. On August 22nd, 2035, Nia was thought of in a way that somewhat resembled the way Nia thought of herself for the first time. 1 year earlier, Nia was diagnosed with a disease known as cystic fibrosis, in an unusual, rare case of a late-stage diagnosis. The doctor told Nia she potentially only had a year or two left. As time passed, Nia began to care less and less about everything. She began to uncover and reveal her deeply withheld insecurities and fears and character traits as they began to fill with the air of insignificance and triviality. While in the hospital, during one of the last few coherent conversations she ever had, she told her husband James that she never truly felt like herself around him, or anyone for that matter, that she had spent most of her life accommodating other people's perceptions of her, as if her concern was always about how she was experienced in the minds of others and never about how she was experienced in her own. How she wanted so badly to be liked and remembered by everyone as competent and beautiful and agreeable and happy and perfect and successful. And now she was about to die without ever really being known by anyone at all. As Nia revealed more and more to James, for a brief moment, for the first time in her whole life, Nia was thought of in the same way she was thinking of herself, synchronized perfectly inside her and James's mind. In this moment of unexceptional naked candor, James and Nia felt a love and boundlessness unlike anything they had ever before and ever would thereafter. 3 months later, Nia was thought of for the first time as someone who was dead. Everyone she knew attended her funeral. Some of her closest friends and family members said incredible things about her at the service. How beautiful she was, how sweet and kind she was to everyone, how hardworking and successful she was. A couple people secretly thought about how they didn't really like her or care about her all that much and just wanted the service to be over so they could go home. Nia didn't know what anyone thought or said. She was dead. On March 5th, 2051, Nia was thought of for the first time as a grandma. Her second child, Nick, showed his first son, Tyler, a photo of Nia in a family photo album. "This was my mom," Nick told Tyler as he pointed to her photo. "She would be your grandma. Can you say grandma?" Tyler, just 4 years old, looked at the photo and let out a soft, "Hi, Grandma," leaving out a letter or two, but understanding what he meant. The wrinkles in Nia's face in the photo made Tyler laugh a little. Then, Nick flipped the page to a different photo of someone else. On December 30th, 2107,
What the fuck?
Nia was thought of for the last time by someone who ever personally knew her. As Katie, Nia's last surviving child, died, the last clear, real memory of Nia dissolved with Katie's mind. On January 2nd, 2372, at 3:52 p.m., Nia was thought of for the last time ever. Her only remaining photos and information held in a data server at an ancestry company for people to learn about their family heritage. A young man named Sonis, employed by the company, was instructed that day to clear out all data servers containing unused full profiles more than 200 years old. Before deleting them, Sonis looked through some of the profiles. As he looked at the photos, he wondered who the people were. He wondered what life must have been like for them. He stopped on one particular photo. It was Nia. He thought she looked really friendly and happy. She had a smile that seemed completely genuine, as if she spent her whole life practicing it.
Wow.
Then he toggled to the next profile. Within the hour, Sonis had cleared the server. With one delete key, all traces of Nia were gone forever. Later that night, while trying to fall asleep, Sonis wondered, without thinking about anyone specific, if any of the people that he deleted would have lived differently if they thought about the fact that one day they wouldn't be thought about at all. This thought sent a strange sensation. Then he thought about his big presentation at work he had in 2 days that he had been cripplingly worried about for the last month. He suddenly wasn't that nervous about it and felt a little moment of freedom and peace. Then he fell asleep.